This is Masters of the Market. I'm Johnson Andrews.
And I'm Eric Clary. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Masters of the Market podcast. We are very excited for our guest we have here today, Miss Kristin, and I'll let Johnson do a formal introduction.
No, first let's give her a round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
First guest, right?
Thanks for being the first guest.
Yes, I feel honored.
So Kristin is a social media extraordinaire, and she runs the Delilah Blog, if you want to follow her on Instagram. And for us and our audience, we thought this would be a great first guest, just because we do expect the first people that are tuning in to be in the real estate space, whether you be an agent, mortgage provider, insurance, or what have you. And social media has become so much more important in this space. And a lot of people don't really know how to leverage it properly.
Yeah.
So we thought you'd be a fantastic first guest to kind of walk through your journey, how you've built your brand, so that hopefully our audience can kind of start doing that on their own as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me.
No problem.
I feel very honored to be here.
Guest number one.
Yeah.
Yes.
This blows up. Like, you're the Ridge. You're the
I love it. I love it. Let's hope for that.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess, you know, part of what we're trying to discuss on this podcast is, you know, people pursue passions, people pursue businesses, careers, and the other cool component about you is you have young children, and you're married, and you have a family, and yet you found a ton of success in this path that you're on. So I'd like to just get right into understanding how you find balance in that. Was balance a thing? How is it like dealing with, you know, because I know there's other people watching this that maybe they want to pursue something, but they're worried it might damage their marriage, or maybe they won't be there as much for their kids.
Right.
And this is a subject that I can speak. I mean, we all can. So if you want to kind of dive into that, I'm very, very curious. And I know the viewers are probably super curious as well to just get an idea of how you do what you do and have such a strong presence at home.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my blog. I actually had a physical blog first.
Really?
That's why I am the Delilah Blog, which I've thought a lot about changing my handle.
Do you like writing?
I love writing.
Okay.
So that's actually, I love writing and photography. So when I first started doing this, it was just a creative outlet. I was working in like a sales management kind of account management role, which is not at all what I like went to school for. It was just a job after my husband and I got married where I was just found a job somewhere. And I really did not enjoy that job. I felt like I had no creative outlet. So I decided I was going to just start a blog, and it was going to be, you know, very low key. I was never going to show my face. I was just going to practice my photography, writing. And this was before we had kids. And when I started doing that, I had no idea it was actually like an industry or a business where people made money from it.
Yeah.
It was a hobby.
It was
really
Get
just,
some energy out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I started it, and then I decided to start an Instagram account, and I started to get followers. And then I had brands reaching out to me being like, hey, we want to give you like 50% off our product if you share about it on social media. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, obviously now I'm realizing I was just promoting them for free, or paying them to promote their product. But anyways, and then it started being little things, you know, like, oh, they would send me a free lipstick in exchange for a post or things like that. So once I realized that it was actually an industry, I thought maybe I'll actually put a little more effort into this and see if this is something I could actually make a little bit of money from. And so when we had kids, or when we had our first son, Mason, I decided not to go back to work after my mat leave and just really put a lot more time into my blog and my Instagram. And definitely in those early years of doing this, like my husband was my photographer, much to his dismay a lot of the time. And there wasn't, a lack of communication on that end. So there would be some like arguments. It was hard to kind of sometimes balance, you know, well, I'm doing this for work, because there is a lot of, you have to post organic content in order to have a platform, right? Like it's not just always going to be sponsored posts. It's not always going to be paid work. You have to be able to just post your life and post this, that, and the other thing.
So sometimes when you'd maybe be out for dinner or anything like that,
Yes.
it might not even be a sponsored ad or giving away that dinner, you're in a position where you have to still post things because that's what the people want in order to get more of those deals later.
Right. So like in the beginning when you're building your brand, especially I think if this is something people want to do, for example, like there's this kind of urgency right now. I feel like in the social media industry, or people who want to be influencers, they feel like they need to get paid, or they will get paid right away. And I think you need to be able to understand that it takes time. And if you want to build a platform that has a genuine audience and actually people that are actually legitimately influenced by you, you need to be posting organic content and things that are just, you're not getting paid to do it. You're just posting it. And then eventually you're going to start seeing brands or PR companies recognizing, you as a person that has an influence. Like, oh, they so-and-so posted this product, like our product, we noticed they like tagged us in it. And we noticed a spike in sales on that product. Like,
are you able to track that data yourself?
No.
You don't get any access to it?
The only way I would be able to track that is, so there are certain platforms like To Know It. This is a reward style. It's a particular like affiliate.
Okay.
You have to apply to be part of the program, but if you have any sort of social media platform, you don't need a ton of followers to be part of it. So you can post a link to a product and you get a commission off of any sales generated from people clicking that link. Okay. So that data, yes, you would be able to see how many people clicked on your link, how many people purchased something from that click. But otherwise, no, unless you were affiliated with the brand, you wouldn't have.
You touched on something really important there, and it's something that's more relevant in younger generations. It's this influencer impact. Now, the correlation between like an employee at a company, like these people want to have an impact at their company. It's like they can't get that there. Maybe it pushes them into this sort of social media platform where they can express. So I guess, you touched on that, and then the experience component. Like, I think it's important for people to know, I think going out and getting experience. Yeah. Maybe it's not your passion. Maybe it's just experience. Maybe it is experience within your passion. I think that's part of the reason we started this podcast. Is we've actually become professionals and experts in our industries, and now we want to share. Yeah. So there's a real important piece of
doing before then,
and then teaching somebody, exactly, or then coaching. Yeah. So I like that you said that, and that's why I've been sitting here twitching for because I wanted to say it, because it's like I have 20 plus employees, and it's this thing that
immediate satisfaction that people want these days.
They want to have an impact.
Yes.
Like, how long did it take you before you were doing the Delilah blog?
Yeah.
For how many years before you actually started turning into a profitable business?
Like I've been doing this now for 7 years, and I've been making a full-time income for 3.
Okay, so everyone wants stuff now these days, right?
Yeah.
Realistically, you did this for 4 years prior to even making a dime, really.
Well, I would say
truly doing this as your.
I would say probably at minimum, I did this for 2 years without making any money. Yeah. Like, it was all maybe gifted product or things like that. And then on year 3, I started to see a few smaller scale paid campaigns. Yeah. I might make $100 here or $100 there. But it wasn't until, I would say 4 years in before I actually also gathered the know-how to negotiate contracts and like actually read contracts and understand like, what does perpetuity mean? Like all of these things, right? Yeah.
But good for you, because you noticed a way to monetize something you liked, right? And you didn't expect, and that's a big important thing for anybody that wants to pursue a passion or maybe build a business or start a new career. Like, whether you have somebody you can lean on as a partner, whether you have savings, maybe you have a part-time job or a full-time job and you work on your business or your hobby in the evenings. Everyone thinks you got to like quit everything and dive in. Yeah, no. And me and Johnson might see that part a little bit differently, but I feel like there's a way to, like, you
integrate
took a couple
both.
Of years to just learn, and it's not like obviously you making a post or you collabing with a large corporation was paying your mortgage in the first 2 years.
Or
putting food in your kids' mouths. So like, that's the other thing I want. Like, you don't necessarily have to have it tomorrow. Right. But you no different than me. You identify something in the market, realize there's a gap, realize there's something you can do better, there's value you can add, whatever it may be, and then set it up. And then obviously you've now grown it into something special. Yeah. And you still love what you do every day, which is sweet. Right?
Yeah. I love it.
I don't think there's a better job. Right?
No, absolutely not. And I'm the first person to say that, just like any job, you can complain about certain aspects.
Yeah.
You know, it can be a bit time consuming. Like you said, work-life balance can be a little hard, especially because my work is my phone, and social media can be, as we know, we've all been there sitting scrolling TikTok for hours on end, or Instagram stories or whatever. No, you
Last
don't do
night,
TikTok?
3 hours.
I just got Instagram in January, and I'm pretty much addicted to it now.
Yeah, it's so easy,
That
right?
is my
to
personality
just
also, though.
But
get
so
lost.
So let's. I know, and I guess I should have asked you to explain more about what you do before
it's
I got.
okay.
But talk about just, you know, I know there's a lot of people, and it's more common now that people are sort of changing their careers in their 30s and 40s and even 50s. And by then, there's a huge percentage of people that have families, they have all these other commitments. So what were, in the challenging times when you knew what you needed to do to become successful in your passion, but you knew you're a mom, you're a wife, what conversations are you having with yourself? Because those are things I think can really, it'll hit home and maybe give them sort of some guidance or help them figure out what they might want to do or how they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you said, I was like lucky in the sense that my husband, you know, has worked full time. So there was a bit of a gap there where when I first decided not to go back to work after my mat leave and pursue this a little bit more, it was because we felt like we could, if like worst case scenario, if I wasn't getting any paid campaigns, we could survive on one income for a little while. We would just have to be budgeting.
Sure.
So, but thankfully, and honestly, in some ways, I just feel lucky. And I was saying this to you guys before we started the podcast. I started my blog when we were living in Toronto. And I think because Toronto is a very hub city for social media and
lots
the
of different
influencer
restaurants
sphere.
to go to. There's lots of different people to collaborate with.
Yeah.
Right?
But a lot of PR companies are based in Toronto.
Yeah, sure.
Big brands like have headquarters in Toronto and that sort of thing. So any events that I was invited to, of course, were taking place in Toronto. I got a lot of FaceTime there with PR companies, and I'm a big networker. So when I'm invited to an event, I meet the person who invited me. I try to meet the brand representatives and things like that, which I think kind of connected me into the industry early on and has continued to give me opportunities even now that I've moved away from the GTA to kind of continue with those opportunities. And I forget the question you asked me.
So yeah, that's fine. So I want to know, like, have you missed a family dinner because you had to go take care of like the real day to day, right? Like,
okay, here's one.
I want to go from macro into micro because people are like, my kid's in soccer.
Yeah.
I have golf camp.
Yes.
Where do I build a business in there? Where do I follow? And that's what I feel like most people, that's the barrier of so many people not pursuing things. It doesn't have to be a dream or a passion. Maybe it's money. You know, maybe it's a sort of segment of the economy or a career path that's provides a lot of freedom. Maybe you can work from home, whatever it may be.
Yes. So that was a big thing for me. Like was part of the reason that we decided to try this was because I could work from home. I could make my own hours. So instead of putting my son in full-time daycare and going back to work and paying probably basically what I would be making in a year at a you know, entry-level type of job in daycare fees, I decided to stay home and see if I could make money doing it that way. So that was actually like a really good thing for me. But yes, there's definitely balance issues. And I can give you an example, a current example, which is probably like a little bit more than missing a family dinner, but I was invited to an event in Montreal with Amazon. And I went to this, it was like a 3-day trip. And it was over the day that my son had his like it wasn't a full graduation, but his like kindergarten backyard picnic. They were gonna, you know, just clap for everybody going into grade 1. It was only 1 hour, so I really struggled with that. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether I should just not go on this trip and miss this thing, which I thought could be a really great opportunity for me in the future with the brand or with networking with other influencers and creators. Or do I stay home and not miss my son's like little kindergarten graduation
That just gave me
thing?
goosebumps.
So what'd you do?
I went to Montreal, and the reason I went, and let me tell you, as I talked to, obviously first and foremost, I talked to my son about it. I asked him, he's turning 6 next month. I said, would you be sad if mommy missed your teddy bear picnic? You know, would you be upset? And I explained to him, I said, you know, I have an opportunity to go to Montreal with oh, for work, but if you really want me to stay, I'll stay. And he looked at me and he said, no, mommy, it's okay. You can go.
Yeah.
And you know, daddy was there,
Yeah.
and I got videos. He got to talk to me all about it. I FaceTimed him while he was at the picnic. But yeah, I talked to his teacher. I said, what am I missing here? Am I missing him like in a graduation cap, like walking down? Is it a big thing? She was like, no. It's very
They're
casual.
running around with their friends.
Yes, literally.
I'm a volunteer at my kid's school.
Okay, yes,
So I
so
actually
you know.
do like at the what you missed. I'd probably be like the ice cream, hand out ice cream to the parents. So I'm active. So I get the feeling of not being there.
It's just
and I can
emotional
completely-
thinking
of course.
about
Like,
those
that's why I have
moments.
goosebumps because like I try to be at everything I possibly can, and you know, but those are the things that people are going to have to accept.
Yeah.
Right. Like I missed first steps. I missed so many things along the way in the beginning. And like now I'm trying to backtrack a little bit over the last, I mean, I became a single parent, so I kind of have no choice.
Right.
Like I don't have a nanny or all these things. I chose to be a dad 3 days a week.
Right.
But even within that, there's sacrifices, right? Like there's days I want to go out and just be with them, and I got a couple meetings I got to do.
Right.
I bring them with me.
Yeah.
So I got memories of them like walking through houses asking if they can play with someone else's toys. I'm like, I don't think
My
it's
kids
hard.
did that
I'm
at
like,
a few of our
"Dad,
showings.
This house has got a playroom. I'm like, I don't think. I'm like, those toys look organized for photos and like showings. But that's the stuff that, you know, because I'm a firm believer. I value success in whatever that means to people. But, you know, I like nice things. I invest a lot. I want to set myself and my kids and the people around me up.
Yeah, you want to provide.
But I'm also, you know, I've lived my life for the last 2.5 years by a quote, and it's one good thing shouldn't come at the sacrifice of another good thing. Right. So being a parent and having time with my kids, I shouldn't give that up to go be a multimillionaire. Right. So that balance is something that I've had to have conversations with myself. And I'm just, I guess, curious how other professionals who are doing something really
I really like how you did that, though.
What's that?
I really like how you handled it.
Thank you. It was hard. And you know what? Honestly, one other thing, and maybe you guys will disagree and feel free to disagree with me, but
I hope we do. That could be a good conversation.
I personally feel like there is a bit of a stigma around like working moms versus working dads missing things, right? So it's like, in my experience, like, oh, if dad had to go on a work trip
he'd go.
over that thing, there would be a zero question. It wouldn't have even been like, oh, should I miss it? Should I not miss it? Like, no, you're missing it because we're going on the work trip, right? Whereas mom, and just, I'm a people pleaser a little bit too. So hearing all these opinions, you know, my own mom, who is definitely a little bit more generationally traditional in the sense of like housewife and stay-at-home mom, she was at everything. She never missed anything, and I love and appreciate her for that. But it's different for me, right? I have a job that I have to do as well, and sometimes that means sacrificing certain things. But yeah, so it was that little bit of like, oh, what are people going to think about me as his mom missing this event versus if my husband was there, nobody would blink an eye. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, we talked it through, and that's exactly what my husband ended up saying. Look, if it was me, I would go. So you should go if you want to go. I think you should go. So
there you go. And hopefully you had a good time.
Yeah,
right?
it was good.
And hopefully it was productive.
Yeah.
Got some value out of it.
Yeah, 100%. There's two things that I've wanted to ask since we started. Like the first one comes back to your prior history, okay? Because you said you worked in some sort of sales, right? So in your mind, now that you're doing brand relationships or ambassadors and other things in which you're expected to kind of sell product to your loyal fan base, right? Do you think having that sales background helps you position products so that people buy it more maybe than the next person would?
I would say that job really did help me in this field. I don't know if I would say it helped me as much in that specific regard, but it's helped me a lot in talking to brands and talking to and negotiating, because I was kind of, the job that I had is kind of hard to explain, and it's long,
sales.
but it's like account management and sales.
Sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
Management is
So that really helped me in being confident enough to speak to brands, to speak to PR companies and things like that, to say, here's what I can provide, here's my rates, like, you know, all of that stuff. But
How was your first, like, and maybe, can I ask this question before you ask?
Yeah, that's fine.
Like, how do you go from, you know, you got this little account that was like a hobby at first, to having your first meeting with like Walmart or Nintendo? Like, what's the build up? I know I
Yeah.
can talk all day
For
about my first
reference,
meetings.
you do work with both of those companies.
Yes,
as
I
well.
have worked with both of those
yes.
companies. Yes.
Yeah, we're not screwing around, guys. We're bringing in real
the real people that are
here.
doing real things. So like, what's it like, just, and now you're probably more comfortable because you have experience, right? You
Yeah,
touched on experience.
but it doesn't mean that it's not really cool. Like
No.
when
Oh, it's so
I got
cool.
my first campaign with Nintendo last year, I was like, this is wild. Like, I mean, so cool that I'm working with a brand that I've loved since I was a kid, first of all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What was your favorite Nintendo game growing up?
What's Super Mario?
Okay.
I mean, I was a big Super Mario girl.
Okay.
I was watching Super Mario TikToks last night.
Now my son's into it, and that was the coolest thing was like because of this partnership, he got a Nintendo Switch. Now he's playing all of these like games that we used to play when we were kids,
but with
and all
much
the
better
new
graphics.
ones. Yes,
Yeah.
But
You
they
actually see
even
eyeballs
have
and
the
like-
yeah.
I think that's why I'm blind. I was
Yeah.
staring at them.
But anyways, to answer your question, it was kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm having an out of body experience when I'm working with these big companies where I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I don't think I'm at the point in my career yet where I'm like, oh, it's nothing. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I still have a lot of, I don't know what the word is, but I just feel humbled still. Like when I get the opportunity to work with these
right?
brands and companies. Yeah.
It's a very good mindset to have because I think even with what we do, or even for anyone that might be watching, when you're self-employed, the clock always goes back to zero every single day, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, say if I did $10 million in mortgages yesterday, I'm still expected to do another $1 million today, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
so just because you had a good day yesterday doesn't mean that then you get to take a week off, right?
Right.
So by staying humble, having the mindset of which that you're still consistently looking to improve and become better and get those bigger relationships or more of them, I think it speaks a lot to the way that you have your mindset of I'm not just comfortable and I can do whatever I want. I'm still going to do what I do and provide value to the companies I work with. Yeah.
And I think this is something actually I was just thinking as you're talking, like we kind of have in common too. Like we don't have a biweekly paycheck that's coming to us the same amount every time. You know, there's some fluctuation. For me anyways, in my market, there's fluctuation. Some months I get a ton of work. Some months I have
Christmas time probably very
nothing.
busy,
Right. Yes. Like around Christmas is usually busy. Or the start.
And you're probably responsible, like you collect all the money and HST and all this stuff. And I'd like, for us to just go back to even, not that I want to sit here and have an accounting, finance, CRA, tax code podcast, but like, you got to be, there's so many entrepreneurs that like, that actually start to do something. They start to generate revenue. And they spend their revenue.
Oh, I've done
and
it.
it's like
I did it. I did it very well.
Yeah.
I'm good at spending money.
It's actually kind of terrifying. Like when you've been used to working a normal salaried job that pays out all your taxes for you, you never even see that money.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't come on your paycheck, right? It's just gone. You what you are putting into your bank account is your own money.
And then you get to spend it.
So much of it isn't even my money, and I have to remember, like, I'm paying this back.
Yeah.
You know?
So like, what would you, if somebody else who wants to, or who has a business in the space that you're in, is it important to put away like 20%, 25? Like what would be, like if someone pays you 10 grand, would you, take obviously a portion and
yeah. Well, so right away the HST comes off and goes into a separate account. I put that HST because I have to pay it back.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm putting the HST back, and then I probably should have a little bit of a better like system for a specific amount that I put aside for income tax. But yeah, I usually
everything's perfect.
I'm still figuring it out.
Get some good
I
write-offs.
do.
Go
Actually,
get a
my brother.
G-Wagon, write it all off.
My brother's my accountant, which is great. So I don't even have to pay him. He just does it all for me.
Yeah.
But that's as a small business, which is a little thing like if you do have a lot of write-offs against your HST, like maybe you collect 40 grand in HST throughout the year, and you have 20 to write off, but you've set aside 40.
Yeah.
Now you have a $20,000 you can put back into your business or pay yourself a nice little dividend and reinvest some in the business. So I just think setting your business up, and people are like, oh, well, I'll figure out the accounting down the road. It's like, I tell my investors and clients all the time, do you see yourself taking a call from a tenant to fix your toilet in 5 years? No.
Right.
Well, then set your business up today the way you want it to look in 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And things will change. You're not going to have any perfect plan.
Yeah.
I've pivoted 5,000 times and things happen. And we've all been in that position. But I think the no matter what business you're in, right, and what market you decide to attack, definitely spend some time understanding the accounting aspect.
For sure. Oh, it's so important.
Or bring somebody in, family, brother,
If
or
you're not
somebody
the
you
best
trust.
at it, outsource is the way that
Exactly.
That's what I always say
Yeah.
to do.
And I think it's like you said, like just knowing straight up, like if you're going to launch into something, some sort of self-employment, scene, definitely making sure you're putting aside some portion, whether it's like a little bit or a lot, to recognize you're going to be paying that back at the
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've made that mistake, guys. It's not fun. Don't do it.
No.
But
it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts real bad.
The other thing that I picked up on earlier, because I've went through something similar and I've experienced it within my business, is I first started working in Toronto. I was there for 4 years, and then I moved back to the Niagara region. Now, luckily, I grew up here, so I still knew a lot of people, but it was still very interesting to see the dynamic or the mindset and the way in which that clients kind of work between Toronto and, say, Niagara, right?
Okay.
Now, for you, going from Toronto, where you said it yourself, it's a hub, where there's lots of opportunities to meet different influencers. There's lots of opportunities to maybe go to networking events, right? How has your maybe page changed, or the way in which you do your business changed, like being in a smaller market?
I think for me, I have to be a little bit picky and choosy about things that I'm going to drive all the way to Toronto for, like an event or this or that. But I also know the importance of showing face at these types of things. Like if I want to continue to build new relationships in the industry, if I want to continue to maintain other sorts of relationships, I need to still be present.
Yep. No different
not
than like
just
a realtor
digitally.
or anyone.
Exactly.
Like, you want to touch base,
Yes.
you have to be seen. Right?
So that part has been an adjustment for me, because before it was easy. I just jump on the GO train and I was down, 2 stops into Toronto. It was very easy, or drive, or get an Uber, whatever it is. But here it's like, okay, $200 Uber ride each way if I'm Ubering, or I'm driving for an hour and a half, gas, parking.
Event, right?
Exactly. So these are all things to consider. Or a lot of these events are, okay, sit down dinner, open bar, whatever. Well, that's a value in and of itself. But then if I have to drive home,
But then that's why you
drive
get the
there, and
$200,
there's all these
Uber,
things.
so we get those expenses
Exactly.
for the business to pay less tax.
Yes.
But something do you think, here's a positive thing for anybody that has a family or other obligations. Do you think you are more selective with where you spend your time because of the personal component of your life?
Oh, yeah,
Like, do you think if you were just a single person, no kids,
I would
no
go to
husband-
everything.
Yeah, right?
I would go to
So
everything.
You're more selective. So it actually could be positive because you're forced to really want to maximize those 4 or 5 hours or 10 hours, whatever it may be, that you're away. So you can't go to everything. You can't. So I think that actually could lead to more success to some degree, right? You're not just a free range horse that can run everywhere.
Yeah.
And
So what you go to, you have to apply yourself tenfold because you're not being spread so thin, right? Like
Yes.
it's focused attention when you go to these
Exactly.
events.
like we love what we do, man. But like we also love being on the Sea-Doos and on the boat with our kid. Like that part of our life is sweet. So
I will say I'd rather talk on the phone and do mortgages than go out on a Sea-Doo though. Like that's how much I love it.
I'd rather be on the water
Sir?
for sure.
Pardon?
I'm not even. Yeah.
I love what I do. Like I don't know.
I mean,
weird.
good on you,
I'm
honestly.
weird, like-
I'll take your Sea-Doo while you're doing
you can.
that.
You can. They're fine. They haven't been used once this summer. Right?
They've already been called for.
I have an Eric slip. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like so, it's different in terms of what everyone values, right? Like when it comes back to it, I'm just always excited to be growing my business because I never thought I'd have something like this.
Yeah,
right?
no, and
like
that
you
makes
try and
sense.
hold on to it for dear life at
Yes.
times. It's like, holy smokes, like you said, it's like you're having an out of body experience. It seems.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, then I need to do all these things, or else it's going to go away. Right?
Exactly.
And that's that little bit of fear that sometimes you have to
Yes.
play with, and especially with your kids or your family time, right? It's like, well, I have to take this call because if I don't, I won't ever get a phone call again.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And then my kids won't be able to go to this and go to that.
for
Like,
sure.
I get the
That was
balance.
the Amazon thing for me. I was like, what
Yeah.
if I never get invited to this,
That's
like something like
exactly
this
it.
again?
Like,
And this is my only chance, which probably
And
isn't
then you
true.
gotta sit and
but-
wonder what would have happened. Like I hate that. That's
It's almost like you
Yeah.
operate from a place of fear when you're a
Yeah.
business owner, right? At times, and it leads you to making those sacrifices. I think with family, because when it does start going well, you think it might never go that well, or like it's a surprise.
Capitalize while
So
the
you
sun's
have,
shining.
you have
yeah.
to sacrifice, right?
Absolutely. And what was I gonna say? Oh, something I think do well, and I commend you for, and humbly myself, is like we have established businesses that are well known and generate income and revenue, but yet we still put all those attention on the smaller things. Right? It's not like now, oh, we have such a business, we lose 5 clients, who cares?
Yeah.
Like I'd be chasing a client for like $120 a month management contract.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we do multiple millions of dollars in revenue
Yeah.
because that's what got me there.
Right.
So to what you just said, like I get it. Like it's just not here forever.
And
right. If you let yourself think that, that's
Yeah.
where you see I think a very steep
I
decline.
totally agree.
And it's one of those things, even for you, probably as you're getting the bigger brand deals, right? Those are maybe the ones that come once or twice a year.
Right.
Right. The smaller brands are the ones that pay the bills.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
For
in some capacity,
in some
yes.
capacity, it might be different,
Yes.
right? I don't know, maybe, but like I think it's sometimes in my head, like I got a purchase agreement for $11 million home the other day, right?
for you.
They want to do $6 million in a mortgage on it, right? But that one deal, I can't put all my focus on it and then lose all my other clients, because
Right.
what if that one deal goes away?
If it falls through
right?
or
So that's
whatever.
why it's like
Right.
you pay the same amount of attention and you give the same amount of effort to
Yes.
all the clients that you work with.
And I
because-
think that is true too. And I think in real estate as well, because if you have a client who's gonna buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell, you want to keep them
Yeah.
on your roster or whatever
Yeah.
you call it.
Not transactional.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and it's the same for me. Even if
Yeah.
I have a client that is a lot smaller, that's paying me a smaller amount, but I'm going to work with them 5 or 6 times in a year versus,
Yeah.
one big client one time. It's like you said, it's long-term, hopefully building relationships that they're going to come back because they like the content that I produce. They liked whatever XYZ working with me.
Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap this up, I do want to make sure that for the people that are tuning in to this first episode, we do expect it's going to be mortgage agents, realtors, because that's just what our network
Right.
is, right? A lot of the times right now, it's important to have a social presence. I've learned that over the course of the last year, just getting started, and I've seen my business grow exponentially.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I would love to hear about, as you're creating a page or running your Instagram, how do you think that you create connection to your audience? Because I think as a realtor, more importantly, more than a mortgage agent, I think having a connection to an audience is important because that's how you build the trust
Yeah.
to represent. So what's one way that you focus on doing that within your page to get that loyal fan base?
I think it's just so important to show up and be authentic and real, especially, and I know for businesses it's a little bit different because your content is going to be more business focused and business oriented, but it doesn't mean you can't show up in your stories on Instagram and show a little bit more of that behind the scenes
Yep.
or just show who you are as a person.
Right.
I'm really
Right?
good at that. I post a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
you're good at that because you like posting, you like showing off your boat. You're like, hello.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's the best advice I could give is just to be authentic to who you are. And
Yep.
people want to see that personal side.
They want to work with someone they like, know, and trust.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
if you show yourself off in terms of your personal side of things to your audience, I think that's going to create that trust
Yeah.
and loyalty, and then hopefully you can get
And show
more
up,
business.
consistently too on social media. If you're looking to build your social media, you need to be consistent. You need to be posting fairly consistently. You need to definitely get on your stories, try to get on there every day and do something, say something,
Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. I'm gonna
engagement things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to squeeze one more in.
Okay.
First of all, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like we could talk for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Hours,
But what's
probably.
next for Kristin Pitman in
man.
terms of your brand, your vision? Are you as passionate about what you do today as you were when you started it? And what's next? And what's one piece you think you could leave the audience with that's like a must if they want to get into doing something like you?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I think what's next for me is really just continuing to be genuinely who I am and seeing how that
It's very refreshing to be
grows.
able to be yourself and make money off
it
of
really,
right?
yeah, it is really nice. It's really nice. I mean, I don't have a crazy high following of about 30,000 followers, and there's obviously so many more influencers out there.
That's 10 more times more than me. Just clarify.
I think
Yes,
it's
but I
15
mean
times more than
comparatively,
me.
right? Comparatively, there's people out there with so many more followers than me. But I think that part of the reason that I've been successful is just like I was saying before, I do try to make those personal connections, not just on my page with my followers, but also in real life with brands, PR companies. And I think that's just the best advice I could give anybody wanting to get into this industry.
Or any industry.
Or any industry, yeah. Just if you're gonna do social media, you need to show up. You need to be consistent. You need to be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not, because people see through that. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
They really see through that salesy, crap. And
Change your tagline to like @Casper because people can see right through you.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, ads and sponsored posts are part of what I do, but I try to do them in a way that doesn't make my audience feel like I'm pushing things on them all the time, you know?
Yep.
So, but yeah, hopefully that
That's your
answers your
That's your
question.
sales background. They're
Yeah.
being sold to without even
Hopefully
knowing.
my @Casper thing was funny because maybe we'll cut that out. I don't know.
Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you
very
so much.
This was very insightful.
It was really fun.
We
Really fun to
appreciate
be
you
here.
putting trust in
First
us for this
podcast.
first podcast.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys.